Okay, so here we are back out in the shed. This guy right here is Blue. I brought him in out from inside. His female, who he's bonded to, is not out here with him because they were inside in the kitchen, and although Blue's doing his job, she was not getting ready to breed. So I'm taking her steadfast lover away from her. I took the nest box away from her. I'm going to leave her in there for about 48 hours and let her get good and lonely. And then I'm going to bring her out here where all the other birds are actively breeding and see if that can't jog her into action. Okay, so I talk a lot about bonding. About male and female birds being bonded together. Like this pair clearly is. Now, in the English budgie hobby, things have gotten a little weird. I'm brand new at this, and I'm just getting to know what the story is. But it very quickly begins to look like factory farming, what they're doing with English budgies. So, to me, these birds are pets, first and foremost. And I respect the bonds that they have with each other, and try to honor them as much as possible. So they are supposed to bond for life and not lose or break up with their mate until somebody dies. So what I'm doing and what I've decided to do is, rather than shuffle birds around from one mate to another trying to find the perfect breeding pair or whatever, I'm going to work with their babies instead of trying to take a shortcut and getting adults to breed with multiple partners in an attempt to find the perfect baby. I'm going to breed them to one partner and get the perfect baby out of them, and intentionally partner them up so that when their babies hatch, if they have one that looks good, there will be another pair that will have complementary traits. Then I can breed their two babies together. That way there is no inbreeding. Inbreeding is another huge problem in the hobby. People inbreed these birds all the time. They get one that's good looking and they're breeding, they breed it to 3 different females, and then they breed all the brothers and sisters together, and then they breed grandfathers to granddaughters, and I know what that ends up like, and I want big, strong, healthy birds, and frankly the first thing that happens when you inbreed creatures is they get smaller. So they're kind of shooting themselves in the foot by trying to take shortcuts. And the other thing is they tend to get kept in really small cages. I got a couple of the birds that I picked up from a breeder that was breeding them in canary or finch cages. The cages were literally 11-inch cubes. The birds could not spread their wings to full. The perch in it was 11 inches long, and there was only one, and it had a nest box hanging off of it that was almost as big as the cage. It was horrendous. So I'm actually putting these birds in cockatiel breeding cages because they can fly in here. It's not going to be a big flight, nothing like the flight cage that they're in, you know, during the rest of the year when they're not breeding, but they can actually fly. They can get off those perches and hover in place without whacking their wings on the walls or getting them stuck in the wires, and that's important to me. I don't want to subject these guys to a kind of life that isn't good for them. So, back to the bonding thing. Breeders with English budgies trying to breed competition birds mix and match their birds all the time. They breed with one mate once, and then they move them on to a different mate, and they break the bond and put them in with another mate. And then if that one doesn't produce the champion baby, they rip them apart again and breed them with another bird. And here's the problem with that. These birds are meant to bond for life. Things that bond, like human children and, you know, animals that bond, they only have so many bonds in their souls before they run out. So if you break them up and put them in with another bird, break them up and put them in with another bird, here's what happens. The females know that the babies are theirs because they laid the eggs and they sat on them. So they're very confident those babies belong to them. The males base their bond to the chicks on their bond to the mate. If they're not strongly bonded to the female, then they don't believe those babies are theirs, and they turn on them and start killing them when they hatch. And I hear this over and over again. you know, sometimes you have to take the males out because they kill the babies. Well, that's because the male wasn't bonded to the female when they started. In his little soul, those weren't his babies. So instead of feeding them and feeding her and taking care of the whole thing, he stood there passive, waited till they hatched, and started killing them off. So I haven't had that happen yet. I seriously doubt it ever will. These little creatures are great parents, and the fathers are very, very committed. And I'm just not going to subject them to that. If they create a bond, it's because either they paired themselves and I agreed, or I paired them to a bird that's here for them, and they will stay bonded to that mate, and I will get the best of the babies out of that pairing, and that will be that. So that's what the bonding is about. One of the things that I hear is people looking at me. I say, now granted, I've only bred like 5 different pairs on a small scale, but every single time they lay 5 eggs, they hatch 4 to 5 chicks, they raise all of the chicks, the fathers are wonderful, and that's the end of that. I hear from people in the hobby, well, 5 chicks would be optimal, but usually it's more like 2 or 3, sometimes only 1. And I'm like, well, why are they getting these people are professionals, and yet they're getting such different results from what I'm getting just breeding, you know, occasionally for fun. And I suspect that a lot of it has to do with the fact that that pairing that they're breeding together that's only managing to produce a couple of chicks has been bred to each of the 2 partners have been bred to 3 or 4 other birds before, and they can't form a bond anymore, so they're not team working in order to get these chicks to survive. So that's my suspicion. I may eat my words. I may find that this is much harder to do on a big scale than I thought it was when I was just breeding 1 or 2 pairs at a time. But we'll see. But I'm going to honor those bonds no matter what. If I decide that a pair has given me the best chick that they can give me, and it's time to rehome them, I will rehome them as a pair. So that they can stay together. Not necessarily. I think I probably have to avoid rehoming them to other budgie hobbyists, because they're the ones that split them up and say, ooh, I want that male to breed with my female, and then kick the female to the curb, and pretty soon they're on the merry-go-round of multiple partners. So I'll probably make a point of rehoming my pairs to, you know, people that just want pets. So, and they can breed them again if they want to. That's totally fine. But I will make them promise me not to split them up. So you see a little hyacinth up here. I put shavings inside of the nests. And one of the things a female does in establishing that a nest is hers is she goes in and clears it out, chews on the walls, and kind of rearranges it the way she likes it. So I'm kind of giving her something to rearrange, because usually nest boxes are kind of barren. But it also gives me a good clue as to whether or not she's laying claim to this nest or not. And so here we are. That is shavings. She's pulling them all out. See her in her little beak? She's pulling them all out and throwing them out. Terrible shavings. Messy, messy. My babies can't have shavings. They prefer an empty box. Most of them do. But by the time the baby's about 2 weeks old, you have to take the box and clean it out and put shavings in it. And start cleaning it out every few days because it gets icky. So, but for starters, they like a bare box. So Miss Coco over there is all about that nest, and she's interested. See her going in there? Oh yeah. So in spite of the fact that she looked like she was forming a bond to Royal, she's decided this is her nest. And look at him. That's called masturbation. Dude, you're supposed to be doing that to the girl. Stop. He'll figure it out. Goofy bird. Alright, so just for kicks and giggles, we also have a pair of cockatiels in here. And as I told you, my parakeets are all in cockatiel breeder cages, and that's my idea of a cockatiel breeder cage right there. It's 36 by 18 by 32, I think. Because birds need to fly. Even when they're busy making babies, they have to fly. I'm not putting them in a breeding cage that they cannot at least stretch their wings and do little fly in place and hop, okay? These two are actually driving the parakeets out here to breed because they're stimulated to breed by watching other birds breed. And these two are an established pair. This will be their third breeding, actually. Although one of the breedings didn't go well because I had to move from one house to another and she gave up on the eggs. So this will be their third breeding. She is a regular gray pearl. He is a cinnamon pearl, although his pearling is gone because he grew up. He's split to Lutino, and so in this pair, all the babies are visually sexable. The boys will all be gray pearls like their mother, and the girls will either be cinnamon or Lutino pearls like their father. So there they are, Pearl and Zoo. Look at those two. They just are so happy to have that nest box and each other. Oh, it's wonderful. Babies anytime now. I actually saw these two breeding yesterday, along with Hyacinth and Phantom. So they're already breeding. We'll have eggs within a week.